Hi, today's craft is going to be a side opening or a side moving waterfall card in a birthday theme. So the first thing we're going to do is upload the files. So I'm going to click over here on upload, and you can either have like your file open somewhere and drag and drop it into this area, or you can just click on upload. So once you're in this area here, it'll either accept a drag and drop, or you can just browse to it. And I've already browsed to mine, so I'm just going to do it this way. And then you just click on the first SVG and click open. If you're on a Windows and you're struggling, like the SVG is not showing up as an SVG, then you want to do this browse and then the drag and drop. So even though it doesn't say SVG, you still want to just click it and drag it, because then Cricut will recognize that it is an SVG. There's something weird with the way that Windows has been downloading the files. Okay, so you're just going to go through until you get all three of them or all four of them in this case uploaded. And then we're going to go through and sort what's going to be our pattern paper and colors that we might want to change and fix our score lines. Okay, so once you've got all four of them, they should be here in your library, and you're going to just click each of them until they have a green bounding box. You can see the bounding box around the edge, and it also shows you down here, like if you accidentally clicked one that you didn't want, you can click on it down here and make it go away. Okay, it unselects it. I think you can just double click it up here and make it, yeah, unselect it also. So if you notice up here that it's selected and you didn't want it, just click it again, or you can exit out down here. And then you're just going to add to canvas. Okay, and then I'm going to click off of them because they were all selected at the same time, which means moving them wouldn't have done me any good. And I'm going to move this one over. We'll zoom out just a little so we got some space to work. All of these white ones are going to be your background cardstock. So if you want your card to be a different color, this is where you're going to change it. Or if you want any of this cardstock like cut out of scraps in a different color, this is where you'll change that. I'm not sure. I think I just want mine white because I kind of want the brightness of the white. So this is one of our first SVG files right here. I'm going to click on it and ungroup it. And that just makes it so that I can actually get to each one of these things individually in here. I'm going to click on this line, or this image right here. This is the card base. It's going to be a 5x5 card, so this is a 5x10 rectangle. And I'm going to click on that vertical line because that's my score line. And you'll see it says basic cut, and then it's red. And I make all of my score lines red, so which are kind of hard to see, especially on this pink. And they don't come into, they come in red, but you don't see the red color in Design Space, but whatever. When we click on it, then we know it's red. So I'm going to click here and make it a score line. And if I click off, you'll see it made it dashed. So then I'm going to highlight all of that and attach that so that that score line actually cuts or impresses across that rectangle the way I want it. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this one. So once I click the shape, I can see over here that they're grouped. I could ungroup them if I wanted to, but I don't need to. I can just click on this line, which is my score line, turn it to score, and then I can either click on this shape again to select both of those things, or I can click on this upper, like I go up the file index basically and click on this and it'll select both of them for me. Click attach. And then this is a pattern paper, and I try to make pattern papers like bright colors so that they stand out, and I know that they don't actually like fit the theme of the file, and then that helps me remember to have them cut on pattern and not cardstock. So this is my first pattern one. It's got a lot of scoring on it, so I'm going to just click, the scoring is all grouped together. So if I look over here at this object, which is all highlighted together, I can just click right on the score lines and tell it score. And you could see it was red previously, so that's how I knew they were all score lines. This black line right here is actually a cut line. It's going to cut a C shape out of that pattern paper. So that's all I need to do to that one. I'm just going to click on this to highlight the whole thing there again, the whole grouping of the pattern paper and the score lines, and click attach so that those stay where they're supposed to. Okay, the jars, nothing in here really needs to be messed with. I just want to make sure that the inside of that A stays where it's at. So I'm going to ungroup here and highlight across the happy and then click attach just to make sure, because sometimes insides of letters will take themselves other places. So the A's and the P's, let's do the same thing with the birthday down here, because we actually, and it's not giving me the option to attach. So that means that everything in this one is where it's supposed to be. if I didn't want something to cut on there, I could hit contour and make like the inside of the A go away. But right now everything's the way it's supposed to be, so we're just gonna leave it. It's good. Okay, so if you want to change any of these, this is your base for each piece of the waterfall part of the card. If you need to change, if you want any other colors, this is where you change that. I'm leaving mine because I want them all white. I am changing these, however, because I want different colors of cardstock. And I kind of want one for, like, I've got a little small pad of paper and I want to use up a bunch of it. So I'm going to make each of these a different color. So when I click on it, it's selecting all of them. I'm going to ungroup and then click each one individually. And I'm just going to start making them bright colors that don't match my file. So right now in my file, I've got yellows and oranges. So I might go with, and I've got a purple there. So this is showing me what my colors for my file actually are. We don't really have any reds, so I think I might go with reds here. I might do an advanced and see. I'm just trying to think how I'm going to keep my brain. I think I'll go with browns too, just to keep my brain organized here. Browns, we've got black. I don't have any gray in this one, but gray confuses me sometimes too. So I'm going to go with dark blues because we don't have any of those. And then when I see that it's going to cut a square, I'll know that it's pattern paper. But this is just when I'm like not paying attention and I start loading everything super fast. It just helps. Let's go back to this brown and see if we can like just choose different values of brown. Okay, and then one more. I just don't think I can get any of those on, like 2 of them on a page, because it's just like those small little 6x6 pads. Okay, so I should have a different color for each of my pattern papers now that doesn't match anything that's in my actual cut file. And if it did, it wouldn't be a big deal, but I just don't want any of these cut out of patterns. I just want to keep them the way that they are. Okay, so now that we're there, I don't think there's anything else we need to do to this file to get it ready. So I'm going to go ahead and cut mine out and I will meet you back for the assembly. Go ahead and get yours cut too. Okay, before you start cutting, there's one other thing you need to do, and that is on these jars, there are pieces here that your Cricut thinks need to be made somewhere out, like cut off to the side. So I'm just going to highlight that whole thing, and then usually you can tell your Cricut's going to do something like that if attach is an option once it's highlighted. So I'm going to go ahead and attach it. I'm going to copy it, and instead of having to do that 4 more times, which okay, I like tech. I'm kind of lazy when it comes to that. So I'm just going to delete those other ones that I hadn't attached yet. This one's attached. I've got it copied. I'm just going to paste it 4 times. And now those are all attached and ready to go also. So I just didn't have to worry about trying to catch everything and highlighting without hitting the blue and all that. So that's just one more thing you need to do to prep. And then if you want to, you can do your color sync over here. I had to drag, there was like one thing of black that was left on the side, so I had to drag some black up there. And then everything else looks like color-wise it did fine. So now we're ready to make it. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. And I've already cut 2 things out of white, so I'm just going to scroll down. Like if you ever have to cancel a project and then come back to it, instead of deleting the things you've already cut, which in this case is squares, it would have been pretty easy. You can just click right here on this mat and that's where it'll start you. And then you'll notice that this one looks better because they're all where they're supposed to be. And also, I don't want them to cut at the top of my mat because it seems like my black doesn't cut very well when it's up that far. So I'm going to actually move them all down to this part of the page, because it just seems like the grip is better down there. Like it doesn't get used as much as the top, and it seems to have better control over those finer lines down at the bottom. So that's another trick too. And then when you go to make it, those will actually stay right where they're supposed to. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. I'm going to give it a little bit more pressure because my black is finicky, and then it should just start right here on this mat. And you'll notice that my placement is all down at the bottom. Sorry, it won't let me roll my mouse around. Anyway, my placement's all down at the bottom of that page, so it's ready to go. Okay, now that we've got all of our pieces cut, we're going to go ahead and start assembling. And you should have this piece here that has a bunch of score lines on it and is cut in a C, like It looks like a C, okay? And then this is your pole piece. It should have the rounded corners, and this is the piece of pattern paper that goes with that pole piece. So I'm gonna set those two aside. I've already taken the time to go ahead and assemble 4 of the jars. Depending on how you want to do your design, you don't have to use all of these. My idea was a jar full of wishes, and I was going to put like a few stars in the first one and then a few more stars in the second one, so that it was like gathering birthday wishes, and by the time it gets to the end it'll have all the stars. We'll see if there's enough room, and then I've got to find some way to write my message too. And then I have these sentiments that I actually cut out from a pattern paper. So the pattern paper that I'm using here, I think this is a really old, like 3 or 4 year old Echo Park boys and girls birthday, and I'm mixing and matching. Like there's a girl one and a boy one, but I've just kind of gone through and found the most neutral ones that I could to use. You should have 6 of these cut, and they should all be a 1/4 inch apart. So if you look at that, they go up in 1/4 inch increments, and your pattern paper should do the same thing. And then you should have your base card. Okay, we're actually going to put all these pattern papers on these cardstock pieces and then reorder them backwards, smallest to biggest. So I'm gonna go ahead and stick all mine together, and then while you do the same, and then we will meet back here to go ahead and put everything together. Okay, you should have all your pieces glued together, and you can either, I don't think it really matters which order, just make sure they're in order. Okay, so either from largest to smallest, and then or smallest to largest. You can actually put these on either direction. Like you can either start with your smallest and work your way across, or start with your biggest and work your way across. But I think if you start with your smallest, it's probably easier, and then you can just add each one as you go. Whereas if you start with your biggest, then you have to move it out of the way. So I'm gonna start with my smallest. Before we do that, you should have this paper with the score lines on it, and you are going to, so the C is facing you, you are going to fold those score lines back away from yourself first, okay? So we're gonna fold them both directions actually, just so that they've got a smooth roll to them. But right now for this first one, you want it to be away from you, because that's the primary direction that it's gonna be going. Okay, so just work on getting each of those folded. If you have a bone folder, you can go ahead and put a nice strong crease in it. It skipped one, but I'll come back to it. It's just what the paper wanted to do. Sometimes you don't argue with the paper, you just kind of follow what it wants, and then it does what you want it to. It's a little compromise with your paper there. Okay, so once you have that all folded back away from you, okay, it should have a nice roll in the like the direction that it's gonna actually go for its waterfall. Okay, then you're gonna take this piece with the rounded corners, and there's a score line on it as well, and you are gonna fold it towards the front, or so towards you. So the rounded corners should be on the right hand side, your fold should come up, okay? And then we are going to attach that back here on the inside of that fold. So this part's making this lip, right? And they're gonna meet up like this, okay? There's a little bit of extra space there, and I think that's just so it doesn't pull back through the thing, and my tape ran out. So I am going to pull this off and then add a little bit of glue. You can use just glue here or just the tape. I'm obviously doing both because that's what I have. And it's just in that first score line gusset, okay, or line. And then just center it with a little bit of extra space on each end as best you can, and line up that top edge. Off a little there. so once you've got that there, it should, if you're like liquid glued, you're gonna have to give it a second to dry. If you use the tape, then you're ready to move on to the next one. I'm gonna just kind of keep pressing that and letting it cure for a second. Okay, and then, so flip it over so you're facing the pattern that you want up, and your pull mechanism should be already pulling, right? Should roll right through till you get to this spot right here where it's flat, which is where your last piece is gonna be, or your first one, depending on how the order you wanna put it on, okay? So this one's gonna go right here. And you're just gonna make sure that they're parallel with this and with the edge of your, I don't think, I'm gonna go with the edge of this right here, not the edge of my paper. It looks like it's almost perfect, but just in case it went a little wonky on you for your fold, I'd go with this edge, okay? So I'm gonna put this one down and then I'll just start working my way up. Should have used the tacky glue just to get rid of it, but I'm obsessed with this stuff now. Okay, make sure you line up with the edge of that score line and the edge of this, just so it looks like it's like constant flow there. Okay. So then you should have each of these, it should close up nicely right there to the edge of this, okay? Each of these is gonna get a card. So I'm gonna just go ahead and run my glue. And then take the next card and put it down, lining it up with that score line and this other card so that they're flush along the bottom. Okay, if you flush up this edge and this edge, then the top and this edge will take care of itself. So flush along that score line, flush along the bottom. And then just seal your glue down, work on the next one. Whoop, slippery. Okay. Should be getting quite the stack there, and it's gonna want to kind of like lift up on this left edge while you're pressing it, just because all these papers are kind of making a pile under there. So you can just let it kind of flop up if you need to. As you do this, each of those should be lining up along that edge so they're all flush. Okay, and we're gonna end with the largest on top. You should have two more to go. I might have made that pull just a little small. Oop, almost did that one upside down. Okay, so the sentiment happy birthday, what I'm planning for that is it could either go on this front here, it's gonna fit on the front, and then I was gonna do jars all the way down through. And then for the inside, you can either just handwrite a sentiment or do a rub on or stamp or whatever it is you have. This one should be a square, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, just follow the direction of your pattern paper. If it cut and it has words or patterns or whatever that are face up, then that's how you're gonna do it. But this should just be, your last one should be a perfect square. Okay, so then let's get to the jars. You don't have to use all of them if you don't want to. I'm gonna set this aside and let it finish setting up while we work on this jar. I'm sorry for torturing you, but I've got this obsession right now, I think, with black lines, and the thinner the better. And it's just crazy to me that your Cricut actually cuts these out so well. And I just like the look. So you get them again. You don't have to use these. You could just do the sentiments on each page and have it flip through and have just a phrase. or you can go ahead and do this. This would be cute if you did like flowers and then you had like little butterflies or something to put in the jar. You could do jelly beans for birthday. That might be fun. I think I remember seeing some jelly bean or something similar like that for like a gel sticker. That could be fun. There are different ways to dress this one up. So I'm just putting the glue along the edge of the blue and then laying the black down and pressing it over with my finger. Because it's so thin, it's really easy for it to just go off kilter. So I'm just using my fingernail to kind of shove it over where it needs to. You can use tweezers or whatever. And this should be just a little bit of a border, like a 1/4 inch away from the edge of the jar. And then this one just goes at the bottom to give it that look that it's kind of see-through. Okay. So then my plan was a jar on each one of these, and then they're just going to slowly fill up with a little saying, maybe like this calls for a big celebration or happy birthday. This sentiment is kind of sideways. I don't know if I'll use it. We'll see how it works when I get there. If you've got sentiments like that and you're ready and you cut those out, that would work great. Or if they've got like little pictures or whatever. So it should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so enough jars to get through the stack, but not for the front. The front is intended to be this frame, like this, and then the happy birthday on top of that. And you should have happy birthday letters. And then the candle is intended for this pull. Okay, so let's go ahead and, I think it should be dry enough. We can test it. It still feels kind of cold, like it's wet. I'm gonna kind of ease it through its first one. It should just roll and wrap. I'm scared to see. I wonder. Okay, so now we're gonna test out our waterfall, and you should be able to just pull on this tab and have them flow all the way through. If you need to, you can kind of bend them back as you get going. If they're not clearing the edge of your paper, push it back through. If they're not clearing the, and this is going to work better once it's actually like glued down onto your base too, but if they're not clearing this edge up here, they're not going to roll very well, and you can go ahead and trim that out kind of with your scissors if you need to. As you can see, I did, and mine's a little crooked, but I'll work on fixing that in a minute. Anyway, so there's the waterfall part. Let's go ahead and decorate the front, and then we will do the inside and put it on the card base. I think we can, yeah, it can go on the card base at any time now too. Okay, so then there's this frame, and I'm just going to glue it to the front. And I'm putting it down first because my happy birthday is a little bit larger than the frame. I kind of wanted it exploding out of it. So that glue's attacking me. Put that there. I'm going to go ahead and glue this onto the base card too. There should be a score line on there, and it should be a 5x5 card. If you need to make it a different size, you can. I just like to have my Cricut cut it because then I don't have to mess with measuring or scoring. Okay, I'm going to glue this down now because I want to let it have time to kind of set up. Do not put the glue on this part right here. Okay, that's the part that actually pulls your waterfall, and you need that to be able to move. So the part that's going to get glued is just this edge right here, this C. Okay, and I'm going to use this because it needs to be used up, and it's got time to dry and set while we work on the other parts. If you have the double-sided sticky tape, this is where you would use it because you want it to be pretty strong. There should be a border, just a slight border around the edge of everything here, just for that pop of white or brightness. And it's the scrapbooker in me. I always have to have everything on a mat, like it has to have a border. Okay, so there's that. And now we can keep working on the front. So then you've got birthday, and there should be the happy, which I just realized I did an orange, but then I also picked out orange for my pattern paper, which is not going to work very well. So I'll probably have to go through and do another one in white or something, maybe even the black. Might we'll have to see what it looks like. It might be bright enough that it shows up. It's kind of a yellowish orange. Okay, so the birthday. And anytime you want to cut any of these multiple times to kind of give it some dimension, that always helps a lot too. Like you can cut it 3 or 4 times and then just give it some oomph. Okay, so here's the H. And with that font, I can't remember if the fat part goes down or up. Let's look. Fat goes up. It's kind of Dr. Seussish. Shooshish. Okay, H. And then there should be a few stars to go on the front. I think I am going to cut this one a few more times, either to give it dimension or cut it out of white and give it dimension. Or maybe a brighter yellow, have it kind of grow a little. Just because that's kind of getting lost in there. And then there should be 3 stars. Funky Y. If you've got glitter glue or something shimmery, you could always add it to the letters right here too. Well, after everything's done and you don't touch it and mess with it. I'm gonna put the bow together while we're here. The candle, I didn't cut a white background for it, but I probably will. Like I'll put it in the file. I was just thinking we'd put it on the pole right here, but that pole's it's a little hidden too, so I could kind of leave it up so it looks more like a book like that, and then your pole would be, but then if you needed to tuck it to mail it, you could. I don't know, we'll see how that goes. There will be modifications. I'll let you know if yours is any different. Okay, so the bow I was intending to put on the final jar, just to kind of like make it look like a gift. And then there should be stars. And just put those on the front to add some bling and to kind of go with the theme of we're going to fill up the jar with stars. Oh, you know what? I don't have to cut the candle out of white. We have it in blue. I forgot. Okay, so there's blue, and then you do another black outline. If you have stamps, you could just stamp the pole on here. I was originally intending that this, let's see how well it slides too. I'm learning no dimension when you do some of these interactives. And where this one, oh, that's my very last one. It's supposed to be stuck. Hold on, let's pull through. And then see what happens when we put something on here. Yeah, it doesn't suck through very well. It's okay, it's not great. And I was thinking, you don't actually necessarily need, you could stamp something there, but I don't know that I would. I think we'll add a tab right here to put this candle on and pull so that it's hanging out just a little bit easier to grab. Yeah. And then the candle can just be kind of off-centered like that because it's not going to suck down through that gap very well. And then the jar will be right there. So then this would be off to the side. You could put a sentiment there if you want to. If not, you've got the whole inside of the card still for a sentiment as well. Okay, so let's finish the candle. This light blue, and I did mine in blue. You can do yours in whatever color you want. If there's a favorite color of your recipient, or if you want a different color, or whatever fits your pattern paper. This is just what worked for me. And then I did the flame in orange and yellow, just for something fun. My orange is going to be a little off because I really need to learn to use tweezers, because my it got chewed up a little on my mat, and so I just trimmed it with my scissors in it. And then I realized, oh, it's got to fit in that hole, so it's going to be a little wonky. No biggie. Still fits nicely. Okay, so then there's your candle. I'm going to put a pull tab in the file so that we can pull that easier. And then we need to decide if we're just going to do the sentiments on the inside or the jars. I'm going to do, think I'm gonna do the jars. And then I might be able to, that one kind of blends in. I might matte that on some black. We'll come back to that. You could always do your sentiments on this side too, or yeah, I think that's how I'm gonna do it. Jar and then the sentiment, and then that way this one can go different. And then if you wanted to add something like writing wise or like a little note or something on each page, that would be cute too. So jar. Decide which sentiment I want on each one. I think I'm gonna start with that one, do this one, and then this one as we get smaller. Okay. And I want to be using this up, so if you, I mean, obviously the more paper you add, the thicker it's going to get here on the front, but you could probably doodle a border or something on that if you needed something more pizzazzy. If you're more of a cover it all up and less of a simple like design person, I kind of go back and forth. Sometimes I like the simplicity and sometimes I just want all the things. And usually when I want all the things, oops, I just did that backwards. I want all the dimension and like brads and ribbons and things. Quick, get this on there before that glue sets up. To me, in my head, these are kind of like a flip book story too, so I'm kind of anticipating like I'm going to add a few stars and then a few more, and so as you go through you're going to see the jar filling up, which I kind of like the idea of. So it's filling up with birthday wishes. As for the tab that I'm going to put in here, that's just going to be a super easy double-sided tab, like kind of like a folder tab. You'll just put it on, glue it on one side, and then flip it over and glue it on the other side, and then add the candle. And then that'll be the pull spot. And I'll leave a little bit of room so that you can either stamp pull on the tab or put it on the candle. Did we get everything we needed on that page? Yeah. That kind of blends in. Didn't think that through either. Kind of just picked papers to use up and then picked cardstock colors that I liked. Okay, so then we're at the end with this jar, and it's gonna have, I want the sentiment to be something about a jar full of wishes or something, so I'll probably handwrite that in there right there. And then I'm gonna put this off just a little, and then we're ready to fill it up with stars. Just remember that it's gonna fold on those lines, so that's like your workspace. Don't go, you can't go over the edge. That one shouldn't be in the way. You need to center it up. And I'm going to start with the most sprinkles on here just so I don't run out of them before we get there. These are just the Doodlebug star like enamel sprinkles. I think they're actually the, oh, you could do, there's 53 on here. You could do one for each year or whatever. Anyway, these are the Halloween ones, but I just thought they'd be cute with this birthday pattern theme. I think, yeah, a jar full of birthday wishes or something is what the sentiment will be. We need a big yellow and a big orange, and then we'll just work backwards. There's 4, 8, 9 there. Doesn't have to be exact, I just want each one to be a little bit less. Maybe one little one. 3, 6. That's the same as that one. Throw a pink one in there. Okay, so this one has to be, you could do 4, 3, yeah. 5 and 2. Kind of put them more towards the top so it looks like they're sprinkling down in. And just do 3 in here. There we go, and none towards the bottom. So now the jar is filling up as we flip through. Okay, let's see how this goes. Okay, so, oh yeah. Okay, and it should be all nice and solid on your card. You put a tab on there. And then when you open it, that's where your other sentiment could be. Obviously you could put this in a mini album or something too if you wanted, but there you have it. I think that covers everything. We'll get the tab made and then this can go on there. And then if you have any questions or need any help with anything, let me know in the comments below. Be sure to hit like and subscribe, and then check out the shop for other paper crafts. It's shop.lemonyfizz.com. If there's anything you'd like to see me make, leave that in the comments too. Thanks for watching.